What's up, design family, and welcome back to another episode of Fittdesign TV. So glad to have you back on the channel. On today's episode, we'll look at how to structure and set up a budget as a fashion brand. Going into any new business venture can be extremely exciting, but if you don't do it the right way and you don't set yourself up for success, you're going to encounter problems down the road, especially when it comes down to your financials. On today's episode, we'll look at what key expense types to consider as a fashion brand so that you can have a better overview of what you're likely to encounter in terms of your overheads and your expenses. This is intended to make sure that you can run a business that is as healthy as possible, that you're able to generate the profit that you need in order to keep your dream running and to keep your business moving with the right momentum. By the end of this episode, you'll understand all of the key points needed in order to create a clear and concise budget to set you up for success. Hey guys, and welcome to Fittdesign TV. So glad to have you here. On this channel, we discuss all things sports fashion, graphic design, manufacturing, and technology. We'll discuss key topics, answer pressing questions, and provide actionable steps on starting your own product line. If you're interested in any of the above topics, stick around. You're in for a good one. When it comes to setting a budget, you need to understand that you need to have enough money on hand to confidently pursue any business stream, especially when it comes to fashion. You'll be much better prepared to take on this task if you understand all of the finances that you need to factor in when it comes to creating a budget. We'll start off with number one when it comes to understanding these finances, and it's as simple as understanding your production costs. When it comes to your production costs, this includes everything from your materials to the production and labor cost to the collection, design, development, as well as the sampling and your warehouse storage fees. Number two is your shipping and logistic costs. Once you factor in your actual production costs, now you not only need to get the product in to your possession, whether you're using a third-party warehouse or you have your own fulfillment, you'll also need to be able to factor in the costs needed to get these items into the hands of your customers. So it's important to factor in your inventory transportation, so your shipping costs themselves from the factory to your warehouses, and your online product fulfillment, whether you're using a 3PL or a third-party delivery company, or your product shipping, whether you're actually doing the shipping yourself. So if you're using DHL, what does it cost you to ship a product from your own warehouse or your own apartment or wherever you store the goods to the end customer? As a fashion brand, you're going to want to physically display your goods. Obviously, as a brand in 2020, 2021, you're going to be using e-commerce as the primary driver of your business, but with fashion, sometimes there is a physical element to it. So you'll need to take into account the physical sales costs that you're undoubtedly going to incur. So what does that mean? Whether you're joining a trade show or you're putting your items into a showroom, you'll need to consider both the participation costs, what it costs to actually be involved in these trade shows, and the logistics cost of getting your goods to and from the venues, whether you have props, stands, so on and so forth. This is an integral part of any fashion brand's budgeting, so be sure to include it. As a fashion brand startup, you're undoubtedly going to want to trademark or copyright some of your brand icons and other brand assets. At the same time, if you're a new company, you're going to want to and need to register your company where you're doing business in order to start trading. So yes, this will differ from country to country, so do make sure to do your due diligence beforehand, do your research, find out what things cost so that you can accurately budget for these in your budgets. A whole category of items that you'll need to consider when going into your budgeting is your operational costs. These can be quite tough to predict because they definitely do change as your business scales, but definitely some costs to account for are going to be things like your insurance, your accounting costs, your equipment, studio rent, your employee overheads, your employee compensations, so your welfare, your social security payments, transportation costs, your travel expenses, and things that are as simple as your stationery costs. So make sure to try to get a holistic view of what things your business is going to need and definitely account for them in your operation costs and your budgeting. One large area of expenses that you definitely need to consider, especially as a e-commerce brand operating, is your IT and your website expenses. These can be things like your SEO fees, your website hosting, domain registration, your website design, development, IT tech support, whether you have someone freelancing or you have someone on call, things like your network and your phone bills. Make sure to take these into account. What's good about this is it's quite easy to get rates depending on your local suppliers in terms of what you can expect, and keep track of all your expenses because they do add up, especially when it comes to your network and your website side of things. One extremely important area that you're going to need to consider as a fashion brand, especially one that wants to get its name out there and to drive sales, is going to be your marketing and your promotion costs. These can be things like creating beautifully well done product photos. Things like branded stationery are going to be equally as important. Same time, you're going to want to look at your social media, your networking. What about things like your online marketing costs? So if you're running digital ads, sponsorships, and in the case of some brands that want to create beautiful lookbooks, you're going to need to budget that in as well, because it is ultimately part of your marketing and your brand appeal. If you're a brand that has or plans to have a physical store, or even if you just have a physical office for your brand, you're going to want to consider your retail store or your physical office expenses. These can be things like your renovation costs, your rent deposits, or your rent payments. If you have staff in these stores, it's going to be your sales staff. If you have physical fixtures in these stores like hangers, poles, racks, your cashier counter, or even your cashier POS system, insurance, and also, if necessary, security, like security personnel and security cameras. In conclusion, hopefully by now you've seen how important it is to accurately budget for your startup brand. It's extremely important to ensure that you have enough budget to pay for at least 2 collections upfront without relying on any profit from any of these 2 initial collections. As a startup, it's quite difficult to guarantee success, and you'll need some time to build up momentum as you progress. So make sure that your budget is going to be able to carry you through the tough times so that you're able to begin generating a profit as a business. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please let us know in the comments below and consider smashing a thumbs up because it'll help more people see this episode. Thank you guys once again for tuning in to Fittdesign TV, and until next time, stay awesome.